So, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and a warm welcome on behalf of Axis Bank from the Commercial Banking Group family. It's a great pleasure, and we are thankful to all of you for finding out time and have come here taking all the pain to spare a bit of time with all of us, wherein we are expecting a bit of interaction and a sharing of knowledge in this session. So to start with, I would like to introduce myself before we start the session. I am Shashwat Das, Circle Head of Commercial Banking Group at Axis Bank, Bhubaneswar Circle. Me and my colleagues at Commercial Banking Group welcomes you all to this 7th edition of our exclusive MSME knowledge series called Evolve. In fact, it's a great opportunity, and we are fortunate enough that we have got very eminent personalities among us. Now, without much delay, in fact, I would like to call upon our next eminent speaker, or in fact, I would say at a very young age, a person who has got the crown of a very well-known figure, a very well-known personality of Bhubaneswar and in Odisha, and who also heads a company called CSM Technology, who is the CEO and founder of CSM Technology. He is Mr. Priyadarshi Nanupani. So just to give a brief about sir, thank you. First of all, my heart goes, thanking him for giving us time and opportunity for being with us. And Mr. Pani is the founder, president, and CEO of CSM Technologies, an IT company he founded in 1998. And he has stewarded the conceptualization and deployment of disruptive technology solutions that have transformed the face of citizen-centric governance. A tech ever-ages Mr. Pani is a thought leader who writes at the intersection of policy and technologies. So he works in a very, out of my, association with the state government or within the banking scenario. He has always been, he works with the state government in a very close association. And in many of the occasions, he also gives advices, or government also seeks his advices in some of the occasion about the development of government on the IT sector, and which you always feel proud to give, being associated with state of Odisha. So I would request Mr. Nanupani sir to come on the stage and share his thought process and his experience with all of us. Please, sir.
Good evening, all. Good evening, Shashwat. So I'm in stress to speak after Mr. Sahu for what he spoke. It's very difficult to actually match his way of articulating difficult things in a easier way. So thank you, Axis. Thank you, Dun & Bradstreet, for inviting me. MSME, I'm an MSME myself, so such kind of a program with the knowledge series called Evolve definitely helps me to give a perspective about what a MSME actually goes through and how MSME actually should be a challenger from a micro to small to medium and to become a champion. That's what Government of India is nowadays saying. So I've been allotted 45, I was allotted 45 minutes, then I was told that 30 minutes. In this age of, 5 to 7 minutes attention span, speaking and you guys hearing me for 30 minutes is a stress. So I'm already in a stress because of Mr. Sahu and already for 30 minutes that I have to speak. So I'll try and keep it simple, probably, the entrepreneurs here, the budding entrepreneurs or the entrepreneurs and the bank, if there can be some message from a life story so far it has been. So which I think is still begun, right? There's a lot of things more to do. So I go back 98, 25 years back, and I was a startup then. So startup as a word was not there in 98, and that too a tech startup. So it's even more difficult for people to understand and realize. But thanks to God Almighty, and thanks to the team at CSM, and thanks to our customers, all our well-wishers. Right now we are roughly around 1,250 odd people globally, and we operate out of various places in Indian states, in Africa and in America also. So the journey so far has been extremely tough. I would not say that it's been in any way easy, but then which growth story that you have heard had not been very tough, That's how the life is. So it's been all about hurdles, but then I think within the hurdles there have been a lot of learning, and I wish I go back many years and I see that, how those hurdles could have been easily crossed, not the difficulty that I went through, which probably can be shared, and that becomes a learning to a lot of young entrepreneurs. And of course to the overall system, because you become an advocate to the change, to the challenges that you face. And then, you, with your advocacy through your association, industry associations or individuals that you go through, you bring in a lot of changes so that the next generation actually uses those as a learning and grows faster. So I come from a typical bureaucratic family. My father was in a central PSU, and I studied in few states in India. So, and it was very typical, like a middle class family. We have brothers and sisters. So she had to be a doctor and I had to be an engineer. So for her it was a choice. For me it was not a choice. It had to be like that. So I went into an engineering college, and by probably third year of the engineering college I had lost complete interest to study. Now that is something something which I regret. But then not that I dropped out from the college, but then I do remember that I don't think that I would have probably crossed my back papers in the final year. So when I become mighty successful, maybe the tag called college dropout can be attached. Not right now, of course. Right, I'm still a graduate engineer. That's how it has been. So things has been. So my dad did not support doing business as any entrepreneur during those days, because you had to get into a government job or a stable job. That's how it has been. So when I decided that, I'll start something of my own, and my sister also decided to do something of her own, different businesses. She's a doctor, and I had to do something of my own. So my only seed fund that was from the family, that I lost. So I had practically no fund. And that is where, I thought that, what is the only business that is left which can start with an idea, but then with very little funds or a capital. So capital today, I'll speak about it later, how important it is, and why capital are important, access to cheaper capital are important, which an MSME goes through. But then in those days, I probably, with my lofty ideas, and, I actually wanted to do everything which was challenging, rather why not build up a steel plant with no money in the pocket, because the steel prices are growing high, there's a demand always. So such, crazy ideas, or foolish ideas rather, I would say. So in fact, from food processing industry to toy making factory, or to probably putting a poultry farm, everything I probably would have done some other research. I wish I go back and I would have put in a poultry farm, because I'm told that government in India, or probably in Odisha alone, the midday meal consumes roughly around 50 lakhs egg a day, which, I mean, what a wonderful business it would be, because no sales and marketing, right? Just produce and government buys it all. Like you have this paddy and wheat, or all those MSPs that government buys. So there is no business like that, of course. For us, we have to do a lot of marketing and sales. 50% of my time goes in convincing client. No other business would have been better. But then that's fine. That is, that is something that I did not do. And because I was designed or probably destined to do something else. So with zero money, I think the only thing that I could do was craft out a story and go to a rich buddy of mine and tell him, give him a story that, let's get into IT. Because in IT it is very easy, and that to exports, that you spend rupees and earn in dollars. And that those days I think dollar to rupee was 36 or 37 rupees. And so that's it, I think I somehow was able to sell. And as it has been for the last 25 years, I have been selling only myself. So I was very good in articulating, convincing a friend of mine. And he agreed and he came on board. So that hunger, 2-3 years, that hunger to do something different, to start something in the state of Odisha, where there is no support ecosystem was there in those days. So somewhere, I just cracked it, and we started a unit called CSM Technologies in an incubation space, which was newly set up by Software Technology Parks of India. So that is probably those days. What we see right now, there is a lot of universities or government institution coming up and supporting entrepreneurs. Software Technology Parks actually was the one who germinated this idea of incubation ecosystem, where they used to give space for 100 square feet or 200 square feet, small room, and they would give a lease line, and that's it. So when we started here, we thought of doing something very different, something doing very unique, as any true startup or any true micro industry would be, and with little money, and that too also part-time employees. So we had to get into doing something different. And those days we started, in '98, we started a portal called OrissaIndia.com. Probably that was the first portal that we started, and that was only done to show a capability of ourselves to the people around the world, that look here, that we are capable, and particularly targeted non-resident ODIAs who are staying outside the state or outside the country. Now that is something, of course we did that, though we met a lot of people, it was an instant hit, because in those days we used to get some 10,000 hits to our website. So 10,000 people around the world 25 years back used to come to this portal, and because what we used to do is we used to scan from the newspapers and put Odia news out there. So people outside India would not get access, so they were getting access, they were happy, and we were getting their eyeballs. And but then there was no program on how to monetize those things. We only thought that we get connected to a lot of non-resident ODIAs outside the country and probably make a pitch about our capability, and they would give us job and we'll earn dollars. So that was as easy that we thought, but then never happened. So what we did in those days, I remember it's a fact. In fact, so to monetize this footfall that we're getting, or sorry, eyeballs that we're getting to our website. So we started a commerce engine, e-commerce much way ahead than the Bansal brothers of Flipkart, or probably Amazon. Jeff Bezos then was selling books over the internet in 98, 99. If many of you, if you go back, people of those days would know that e-commerce was just there, it was touching. So we started something called OrissaMarket.com, and we started selling, we started the typical gifting services of cakes, roses and all, and we got a payment engine from America who used to charge people in dollars. So being a 100% export-oriented unit, so we satisfied the government that, here, look here, we are making dollars. And I remember we made a lot of money that year. The very first year itself, we made a 30 lakhs rupees turnover. We did a lot of things. In fact, we started a matrimonial channel also to monetize that entire thing way before, I think all of you know Anupam Mittal, who comes from Shadi.com, the guy who is from Shark Tank. The glory is from Shadi.com, because those were the gaps. So, but then I just could not settle there, because for me, services were more important, product line was not important. That is how the mind was tuned. And to do that, I think unfortunately those years, 1999 super cyclone happened. We had this portal. We were probably the only connection between the global. In fact, BBC took rights from the photographs that we collected and put it on the website. So all those things happened during those initial years. But then our break came when we got a project from British Petroleum in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City. It's a small project, but then that's an export break that we got. And those were the days, that first 2, 3, 5 years. And I keep telling a lot of people that 5 years, if you sustain in a business, I don't think there is any looking back. And till 5 years, you have to keep doing a lot of R&D. I mean, you have to keep pushing, do different things all the time. So we started from a website called odishaindia.com, and we had aspired to sell that website like samachar.com. In those days, Satyam Computers did make a lot of news by buying or probably merging or taking over Samachar and Coach.com for 500 crores. So we aspired to actually do something like that, but then the big bubble actually burst. The dot-com bubble burst had happened. And so the way Y2K happened in year 2000, the bubble also burst in 2003-04. And I had also lost interest since I wanted to do a service line. And that is where we started doing some odd jobs locally, and we did this project in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City for British Petroleum. And that is the time then in the hunger or the quest to find something different for ourselves, because we do the same thing what Infosys does or the TCS does, but then the domain has to be something which can have a conversation. You have to be into some technology, like you talk about agriculture, agri-tech or fintech or deep technology. There are so many tech nowadays that people talk about. So we somehow got bumped into the government, and I now say that as GovTech, because anything and everything around us is going to transform very fast if the government actually gets into digital transformation. Life will become far way more easier. And the transformation that we could see a Netflix or a Ola, Uber or a Zomato or a Swiggy could bring into our lives. The same way, the governments also, when they digitize, they bring in transformational service. Like you can see yourself in what we are going through in passports, or what we are going through in income tax. So these are all transformation. So there is a huge tech engine that is attached to it. And year 2004-05, we realized that the governments are very complex, very difficult people. They work on a Six Sigma process. They're ruthless. And then they don't allow people also to come in. They can even deny Google that, they don't qualify into bidding into government system. And this is true, whether it is United States or Portugal or Brazil, or you go anywhere in the world, it's extremely difficult to get into government. So why say government? Because large institutions also like Reliance or Tata's, you as a small company would not get a break. Now, of course, with MSME, I think the government of India, the state governments doing a lot of effort to give a break to MSME. So in those days, probably 20 years back, it was not there. So this is something that we found our calling, and we said that there is too much of a man-made problem out there, too much of a problem where solutions will keep on growing only, because the way the governments are, we all rebuke governments because of their red tapeism and because of their slow processes. But at the end of it, if you see the other side, the governments are extremely ruthless when they have to take job. And anybody who is working with the government also, they become accountable to the public at the same time. So, complex job, tough job, but then they are transformational job. And today, I can say very proudly that, we as CSM touch roughly around 1 billion life in a year. And why we do that? Because the systems that we have placed touches so many people on a daily basis. For example, the tea auction for 11 countries in the east of Africa runs on the CSM software, which runs out of Mombasa port. So any tea that is going out, right, any cup of tea that is being consumed in the entire African continent and to a part of Europe, right, runs from this software. All transactions, the trace and track happens. I see few friends of ours from the mining company, they also know that, how CSM has worked. And today, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Bihar, and now Karnataka are going to come, right? So 80% of the mineral ore that is produced or evacuated in India, coal, non-coal, is running on CSM software. So we do single window systems for the Ethiopian government, the one that you see Go Swift, or the single window systems that is there in India now. We do early warning system forecasting for the country of Kenya. So we do a lot of work in India and African countries, and the numbers have been growing. COVID, I think, for the problems that we had in COVID, but then pharma and IT has been one of the biggest front runner. Somewhere, they got 5 to 10 years ahead of time, and that is where we see a lot of digital search or the transformational activity happening in the governments also. So now, all these things has been very tough over the last 25 years, and I started saying that. And why it is? Because entrepreneurs cannot work 9 to 5. Entrepreneurs, if you are an entrepreneur, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you are already, I think we all know that 14, 15 hours is a must. There is no shortcut to this hours of effort that you have to put in. And because you have a promise to your investor, and in this case, for my case, it is bankers now, which I have a promise that I have delivered, that I will return their money with interest. I have assured my clients, and I have a larger responsibility to the employees who work at CSM, because who are aspirational, because I work in an industry where everybody is well literate and they're very ambitious. So you have to protect their interest, and you have to make a billionaire out of them. So an entrepreneur may, the moment an entrepreneur thinks that, I quote Narayan Murthy, he always said that wealth has to be created, and he has to make millionaires, and that is how his company gets elevated. So those were the days 20, 30 years back. Now I think billion rupees is also easy to be achieved, because the way people are speaking about. So that is how that my journey from micro to small to medium. Right now I think I'm in a medium level, and so my MSME days, I love my MSME days because I get a lot of care and comfort. And you see, all of you know that 20 to 25% we contribute to the GDP. If I think if the numbers are correct, 40% they say that the exports from the country does take place by the MSME, and MSME employs roughly around 12 crore people. I mean, it's no small feat. And hence, when Mr. Sahu spoke about, the bank is the key to any MSME. Large players will have their own challenges, but then MSME challenges are very, very typical and very sensitive, and very, it's very emotional also at a time. And I go back, I've been banking, I know the stress, the challenge the bank faces, but then at the same time, understanding business, because every business is different than the other. Every business plan or business model is different. So, since this is a forum for MSME, and we need to share something, I'd like to share something with you, that the single change in the definition of MSME has had massive impact, which I think all of you are aware, and if you're not aware, the change in the definition of MSME, that is from 1 crore for micro, 1 crore investment to 5 crores of turnover, or for small, it is 10 crores to 50 crores, and in medium, of course, in medium we contested a lot, and the government finally agreed at 50 crores to 250 crores as a turnover, which probably has given a lot of flexibility for the bankers also to be able to lend money to the MSME. So, as I told you, I work in the compliance sector with the governments, the single window systems, the income tax portal, and the refunds that we get fast, because that is our money, and the sooner that we get, and that only happens through IT, and all those things will go a long way. And I think Government of India also has placed systems in place where I'm told that there is a target to the large companies, to government PSUs to procure from MSME. So that is something which probably was never there, and which it becomes a kind of a right to go and approach and do certain things. So, but then MSME, I think how MSME, we don't want to remain as a MSME all the time. We have to become champions. We have to cross that number. And the only way that we can do, and that I practice, which I should share, is governance. Because I'm a great believer of the way American businesses are set up. You take up any American company, whether you are a 5 people company, 50 people company, if you grow up to 50 people or to 500 people, the structure remains same. They are, the way they treat their boardrooms, the leadership, the American presidency also works that way. So that is something which Indian companies probably are learning. The new age companies are learning. I am also learning that how important is leadership, transparency, equality to be instilled in the people. Now, many years back, Bank of India had felicitated us for something extraordinary that they thought that we did. And I heard the chairman of Bank of India speaking that we are into a complete dismay in giving loans to MSME, because the MSME do not disclose their profits. Right, they have a habit of decreasing their profits. That is something which used to be past India because of our odd taxation structures and because of the family-run business and stuff like that. When we are in an age when we are looking for private equity to come in, angel investors to come in, they all look for governance, they are all audited all the time. So it has pushed the Indian industry or the Indian MSME diaspora to a completely different level. Today, when you check up any startups, you'll see the kind of a plan that they have is unprecedented. That was not there when I did my startup. And it's still in a learning process that, how do you actually bring in governance to the system to make sure that it is not only internal, but it is external. Your quality cannot be internal at all, it has to be external. So everything, the more you make it external for MSME, the more it is better for people to realize, understand, and you are walking the talk all the time in terms of delivering quality. So I'll take 2 more minutes. Without challenges, I can't end, because MSME have always been crybabies. So crybaby is important because that is how you change the system. You bring in change because unless until you speak, people would not listen. Now, that is something which I have been saying that 3 things are most challenging for MSME: access to cheaper capital, access to infrastructure, access to talent. Now, these 3 things, if they are set right, then everything is done. Now, access to capital or access to cheaper capital. Now, the challenge is that if you are doing business in west of India or probably some metros, I'm sorry if I have to say the banks, right? But the banks behave very differently with the same product if you are in Mumbai, and they behave differently when you are in Bhubaneswar or Ranchi or Guwahati or Berhampur. Now, that is something which needs to be corrected, and the MSME, of course, you entrepreneurs have to probably push your way through, go to the headquarters or probably teach or go to the websites of the bank and understand what rights that you have. Now, that is something, and including the HNIs, availability of HNIs to put money into the companies in small cities. Whereas you go to Mumbai, things are very, very different. So there are certain problems in access to cheaper capital. Access to infrastructure, see, I can talk about IT only because I come from IT industry and I don't really like to create my own infrastructure. It's like buying a Mercedes Benz for myself. I would rather, take space on rent and probably grow business. Now, space on rent, the rates at Bhubaneswar is same as the rates at Hyderabad or at Bangalore. So that doesn't work out. So there somewhere, there is a demand supply problem. And I think government are the one who probably need to do a lot there. They can't really build infrastructure. It is the private people who have to build infrastructure. But it is they who have to loosen land. That is their subject, of course. I don't have to say much. But then if Hyderabad is Hyderabad today for IT, you just look at the skyline of Hyderabad, you will see 50 cranes, 50, 100 meter, 200 meter cranes. At Bhubaneswar, you don't see that. So till the time we don't get those kind of cranes here, IT would not grow. So I can only speak about IT. So hence I keep on advocating that infrastructure is something that the governments have to create, not the private sector, or in a PPP model, or the private sector can create, provided government allows. I'm not talking about the roads alone or the electricity, those things are given in 2022. But then there are industrial park, specialized park the governments have to create. There are a lot of things that Odisha government has actually done in the current IT policy, which we are very happy about. And the least is talent. Now, talent is something that we face, and in Odisha we face there is a severe crunch of talent because somehow our Odia brothers and sisters don't want to stay here and they want to move out to Bangalore. Again, I'm talking about from the business that I come in. Now, this scenario will not change unless and until we have many the same cluster or same type of businesses working in a place. Like for example, you go to Bangalore. Any technology that you ask for, any deep tech technology, people that you ask for, you get instant access to them. A 5-year Java guy at Bangalore would cost you lesser price than a 5-year Java guy in Bhubaneswar, because people think it is like, coming back, I should be charging more, and it should be reverse actually. So this is a very strange phenomena. So I'm a great believer. The more the IT company comes to Bhubaneswar, right, in the buoyancy, we will all grow up. So in that line, if I have to draw a small reference to context, I read in newspaper that the governments are planning that, they will have one product, one district, which is a very good thing to do. And I think that is where, if in one district they decide that they will only do food processing, so the banks also have to be aligned and everybody have to actually play a role, that because more the industry of the same type, right, with the buoyancy things grows up, particularly access to skilled manpower actually happens. So this is something I spoke for 25 minutes, I believe, not more than that. I know that this kind of, I was asked to speak as a keynote speaker and give a story about myself, which I did a little bit, of course, and I touched upon something on a correction that has to happen. As I said, MSME always crying, things has to change. The banks are not able to understand, the governments are not able to understand, so that's it. That's how it has been. So thank you, Axis Bank, thank you, Dun & Bradstreet, and thank you for everybody to patiently listen. Do I have to take any question answer? That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, without further delaying, in fact, we have one more speaker, a very young and dynamic speaker. I think all of us would need to spare another 15-20 minutes. And it's really, I'm sure everybody would love to listen to him. He's a young, dynamic entrepreneur from Kolkata. He has flew from Kolkata for all of us. In fact, today evening he has landed here, and it was very difficult for him to travel, in fact, at this point of time to Bhubaneswar. But somehow, with our request and with the request of Dun & Bradstreet, he has come over here. He is Mr. Arijit Bhattacharya. So Arijit Bhattacharya is the founder of a company called Virtual Infocom. It's India's first game development company. I think all of us would be interested to hear this. Here is experience, in fact. And he is an active advisor and speaker in cybersecurity and financial management forum for cybercrime and security. So he is a creator of India's one of the first virtual reality training institute and maker of virtual reality lab in Middle East. He is the creator of one of the first, contributor and such creator of smart city project. He is also a part of the many smart city projects across India. So without further delaying, I would request Mr. Arijit Bhattacharya to come over and share his experience and share his thought process on MSME to all our esteemed guests. Please.
Thank you so much. I think, again, I'm between the dinner and cocktail and my speech. And I'm sure that you guys are all hungry and waiting for the glass to be there in your hand and, of course, the mouthful of delicious food. I'm not gonna hold you more than 15 minutes, I assure that. Well, as per my introduction, of course, I'm a serial entrepreneur, started India as one of the oldest game development company, created Shaktiman as a game. If you remember that time, there was a TV series, so we took Mr. Mukesh Khanna in and as a character in a superhero game. And my thought process that time was to create Indian epics and mythology and tell the world that we are not a world of flutes and snakes. We are basically a group of people who created amazing stuff. Somehow we became like very optimized that lot many people came here, ruled upon us, and we lost our history. So that was the concept that I started back in 98, and as my previous speaker said, it was all the days of Internet Explorer, Yahoo as a search engine, and definitely there was no social media. In 2008, I'll sink it very little because this is not a my story session for me. This is more of a knowledge sharing session. 2008, I decided that if I can be a catalyst, give it to the world, whatever I have learned, whatever I have gathered, so that the concept of I become we. I will talk a little bit about a very small incident that happened in my life. Trust me on this. I have been published in several different global media, including CNBC, Diplomatic World, all the Indian TV medias and newspaper once upon a time. And I was traveling like anything. That time in 2007, I was traveling in Rajasthan. It was really cold night. The reason I started my company was to actually give back to the society and community. But in due course of time, just like others, I'm not sure about you, I forgot that why I started. I became a little bit of arrogant. I understood that money is the main thing, and probably growth is the only factor I should go on. 2007, that time, I hear a cry when my car stopped in a signal. And I saw a lady, a beggar, to be very honest. She was trying to protect her kid. It's a half-mad lady. Because of the cold, that child is crying like anything. She opened her sari, became half-naked, wrapped that baby, tried to give a comfort zone. Car started, and I couldn't stop my tears which is coming up from my eyes. I felt that what the hell I'm doing? I'm just earning money. I'm not giving back. And that gave me a very small dot to learn and understand, to become like water rather than becoming a normal serial entrepreneur. We have been hearing a lot about entrepreneurship. May I understand from the audience what is the concept of becoming like water? Any one of you? You can take any shape. Anyone else? You can flow. Anything? Transparent. Excellent. Anyone else? Sorry? Okay, that's interesting. Amazing. You can vanish in thin air. And? Super. And you can become a best reflection. Becoming like water means if you are static, you give a best reflection to the person who is in front of you. If you are not a static water, if you are moving, somebody is probably acting or reacting with you, that becomes a ripple. So you become the best ripple for the world. And when we are talking about all these kind of activities, I'm sure that you all are master in your own business. But I think we miss a very basic thing in our life. We are always talking about we work with Western world, we work with probably USA. I do that as well. To be very honest, we have around 97 countries chapter. But this is not about 97 countries. This is all about how we can market ourselves. Can we ask ourselves, are we doing the right kind of marketing? Do we have that kind of reflection? Do we have the kind of people who can probably throw a simple stone in your water and that becomes ripple? Meaning, do we have a kind of community who talks about you, not about themselves? Can I have that answer from the audience? Say for an example, if I'm talking here, will you talk about me in your community? If that is happening, then only we can grow. When we talk about MSMEs, SMEs, well, I don't define it as SMEs, MSMEs or corporates. We all are human beings, man. We need to understand a very basic thing. When you are earning money, are you giving back to the community? It can be recruiting multiple number of people. If you're recruiting multiple number of people, that means you're taking care of families. If you're taking care of families, that means you are actually building nation. I was hearing, I think, a lot about two of the eminent past speakers. To be very honest, post-COVID is not an era of creating sky-rising, high rocket sky buildings. In today's world, the work culture is changing dynamically and drastically. If you look at the corporates, they are actually asking people to work from home. How many of you have adopted that technology? How many of you are there in cloud? I have been called as mad and crazy when 2018 we went to complete cloud and started taking and asking people to work from home. And then in 2019, when COVID hit, man, we made a lot of money because people then started asking, you are that crazy guy who went completely cloud. How you made it happen? Can you help us? So the basic principle, if I may touch upon my own core subject line, which is probably how to become digital and how to touch upon the world trade, import and export. Let me take probably max 5 minutes. Is it okay? I'm sure you all are hungry and I can see the faces and saying that, man, you just go down. We need to go and fetch some food. Well, talking about digital, the next era of technology which actually is happening at the moment is blockchain technology because of the encryption level that's happening across the world. The next level of technology which is coming up is called quantum computing. Have you ever heard about it? What's going on? The basic thing that is happening mainly in Middle East and in USA, universities, government associations, corporates, they are adopting this technology only for solo one reason: improvising the speed of work, giving more time to the people. If you really want to trust me, if you are an entrepreneur and you are spending 15 hours of your daily time to your work, I am sorry. I am sorry. I can spend time here because there are multiple number of people in my company who is taking care of the company. And that's the reason I can spend probably 5 to 6 more days relaxing without doing anything. Same thing goes with my other leaders. If you are an entrepreneur, it's not a talk about only digitalization. It's about understanding how you can create it as a process, how you can ask and nurture the difference between an employee and a leader. Okay, raise your hand. Who are the entrepreneurs in this room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Amazing. Who are the business people in this room? 1, 2. You know the difference? Cool. Who are the working professionals in this room? CA, CFA. Any working professional, lawyer, super. And rest of the people, if I may understand their occupation, one or two from the audience, raise your hand. Apart from this, I know you're human. Apart from that, I think Bhubaneswar is really shy. I can't speak Oriya, but I can speak Hindi and Bengali and Russian. If that works, I can start in Russian. Will it help? No? Okay. Cool. The reason I'm asking you this, if you are a true entrepreneur, and if you have maybe 5 key people in your team, I call them as rhino, swan, snake, tiger, and an elephant. Rhino is the guy who is taking all the bullets for you. Swan is that particular person who is knowledgeable enough to dig upon and extract knowledge to wisdom. There is a huge difference. In today's world, you have a smartphone in your hand, you get all those information and you feel that that's knowledge. When you try to extract that, you understand this is not knowledge, these are all junk data. And we Indians are the biggest consumer for all those big 5 companies who consume daily basis Facebook reel and Instagram posts. Yes or no? Yeah, true, right? What exactly asking us not to create such kind of product? Who is asking us not to do that? We shy enough or we don't have the capability? Or we call ourselves small, SME, MSME, feel that it cannot be done? It can be done. There are startups who are actually doing it. I forgot to define myself. I'm a mentor to IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. I'm a mentor and advisor to IIT, multiple numbers. I am a part of Harvard Business School as well. Along with that, I'm a part of one of the royal families in the Middle East, Al Maktoum. Including that, I act as a consultant to Asian Development Bank. There are a long list of things which I try to do. And the reason I'm doing it, so that I can become the catalyst. If you remember, try to become like a water. So if you have a color, I'm colorless. You put red, I'll become that. And that's the sole reason when I felt after my last interaction in Pune, I saw that there is a beautiful color for Axis Bank. I felt that I should dress with similar kind of color. I'm so sorry I don't have that kind of suit, but I tried to mix with this color. Well, now when we are talking about imports, exports, as per my understanding goes, this part of the land have got amazing natural resources. And I'm sure that lot many of you are doing exports, making money. Can I ask these good people to at least go in internet, create a small account, create stories what you are doing. It can be your process, it can be your end product, but talk about the stories. I'll give you a small example of one of the gentlemen. They produce scrap metals and they had 70% women working in their company based out of Delhi. I will not move from India to any other part of the world, even though I can. But that gentleman never realized that 70% woman that he has recruited can become a story. He was just doing it naturally. When I had a discussion with that gentleman, I said that, why don't you make it as a storyline? Because you are giving livelihood to women. It became viral. Again, my question is, are we doing enough marketing for ourselves? So what are the tools? I'll give you very simple tips. You have a smartphone with you? Everyone? यार हाथ वाथ कुछ उठाओ, नहीं बोलो, कुछ नहीं बोलो, कुछ तो बोलो भाई. Okay. Is it internet connected now? Super. Can you kindly put my name in LinkedIn? My name is Arijit, Arijit. Please do that. I'll show you something live. Name is Arijit. Don't worry, I'm not sing and I can't sing. The surname is Bhattacharya, Bhattacharya. I'll give a pause. Please have a look. You'll find me with a sunglass, probably a red tie with a black suit. Yeah, I look handsome there. Don't worry. Thank you. Can you tell me my today's post likes and comments? It was probably 12 or 13 hours back. Any one of you? Is it showing? How many likes? Sorry? 627. How many comments? How many share? What did I post it? And what was the video? For Axis Bank? Yeah? Right? The point is, if you are using social media, try to stick on a corporate social media like LinkedIn. It's going to give you business. It's going to give you connectivity. It's going to give you a network which is beyond your imagination. Anyone can tell me my number of followers? Approx? 36,000 and above, right? Specifically, I don't accept people until unless I know them. Initially, if they send me a friend request, I usually try to understand what they are looking for, and if it is okay, I accept them in the network. So it's a curated network that I do follow, very specifically. Without that, I don't accept random people. Why I'm sharing this in this podium? The reason is, if you have LinkedIn, if you know someone from your team who can actually use it for the best of your business. Believe me or not, you're going to get number of business which you have never thought of. Another example, if you are using Instagram, if you have some business which can have any kind of graphics or any kind of videos, try to use it smartly. It's going to give you a brand value. Now, when we are talking about moving towards from a traditional business towards a complete different kind of digital activities, I will finish my speech with this example. Oil and gas is an industry, right? It's a big industry, traditional one. Does it have any kind of digital transformation that happened in some last 2.5 decades? Anyone knows any story? I'll give you one story. One company based out of Europe, they decided to grow from one part of Europe to another part of Europe and tried to expand into Middle East as well. Simple oil and gas company had a gas station with a cafe, with a bookstore, decided they will grow more. What they did, they created that entire platform not as an oil and gas company structure. Rather, they started making it as an ecosystem based out of blockchain. In real life, imagine you are driving a car, entering inside that particular oil and gas station. The AI camera can detect and understand you as you, and understand what is your consumption level, what you do every time when you come, how much gas that you usually take. That creates a data point. When they did that, they made it as a complete ecosystem for multiple different countries. They never entered into some other country as an oil and gas station, but entered as an ecosystem. They raised funds, and now they are growing faster than anyone. Why I am giving you this story? The essence of growth, again, is to make an ecosystem and grow together. I am just no one. I'm just a small drop of a big ocean. But you all have different industries, And I'm sure every industry knows other part. It's a core related relationship that you have. So if you come up as an ecosystem, there is no one who can stop you. You don't need to wait for neither government or any other third party. And I'm sure for funding needs, for working capital, this bank is going to help you like anything. With this note, I'm not going to hold you in between your food and your cocktail. Open for Q&A if you have any. Otherwise, thank you. Sayonara. Privyat.